Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Philip Beer from the No Line podcast. And today we have two guests who just completed the executive development program at UNLV. They're going to tell us more about that. We have Sarah Webster. She's from Yaamava Casino. She's VP of Finance. And Oliver Shoemaker. He's VP of Slot Operations at Cache Creek Resort. Sarah, Oliver, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's great to have you here and excited to hear about the executive development program. Before we get started, the program was focusing on the new Thailand casino. Tell us more about it.
So the executive development program, in addition to presenting a number of speakers and going through a number of sessions, sort of famously, if you will, assigns a project to groups of teams. In this case, a team of 8, and each team is responsible for something a little bit different each year. And this year's emphasis was to present an integrated casino resort proposal that would be based in Thailand. Which is sort of interesting because of some recent movement happening in Thailand in that space. So it was well timed, it seems. But what a project! So we had about a week, 5 days, 6 days to, above and beyond attending some of these other sessions, but get with the groups and spend as much time as you can to put together, not only learn about the region and the country of Thailand, or try to find a space within Thailand that made sense, but to put together a resort proposal, including financials. Thank you, Sarah, and and all sorts of interesting vision, and ensure that we consider hot topics in the region, everything from compliance, responsible gaming to sex trafficking.
So it was focused on the new integrated resort that is being talked about for Thailand. Why Thailand? Why did Thailand get selected for this project?
I don't think we can specifically know. I talked a little bit with Jim and Bo, and obviously the timing of when they select the different locations when they've done this in the past have been related to movement in those areas. I believe last year they did New York in preparation for, the ongoing bidding there. So I think that the timing is good. We've seen, I just saw an article last week that Thailand is poised to perhaps bypass Singapore on the gaming front if they were to move forward. So I think the timing of what's happening there was really important for us in the industry. Plus, I think it was important for us as leaders who were learning something new to get out of our comfort zone. If they had perhaps done something in Vegas or somewhere where we're comfortable with, you don't stretch your muscles as much. So I think it's a little bit of all of that.
Fascinating. Excited to take a deeper dive into this. And how did it work? Were a number of students selected? How many?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. So it starts off with, here you're one of about 50 attendees that are then between their backgrounds, where they're from, and a personality test that gets involved as well, just to kind of see, who may work well together. And then they create some teams. The teams are created by the Bo and Jim, the group that puts the event on, and you develop these teams of roughly 8 individuals. And you go in and you get into a room and you start just trying to figure it out. Like, hey, what strengths do you have? What do you bring to the table? What are you comfortable in dealing with? What do you maybe want to stretch your legs out a little bit on it? Maybe you haven't been involved in the past, and you just dive in. You start parsing off items to use or items to consider and ensure that nothing gets missed. Right. So there's a proposal that's handed out. It's sort of like this big, bam, here you go. And all of a sudden you've got this massive project, which ultimately ended up being, a 30-page proposal that could include up to 30 pages of supplemental stuff, whether it's pictures or graphs or items regarding finances, etc. And then you make a presentation at the end of the week to a panel of judges that basically take the place or represent themselves as representatives of, in this case, Thailand. And then it's followed up with some question and answer pieces that they want to ensure that kind of put us in the hot seat is really what they're trying to do. But answer some, ask some pertinent questions regarding the project itself and ensure that we not only thought about it, but have an answer for it. Great project.
And it was 5 days long.
Yeah, five days, mostly evenings, because during the day we're attending sessions all day. So, basically from as soon as the sessions are done with 5 o'clock roughly, you dive in with your teams and you go until the wee hours of the morning in some cases and ensure that you have everything buttoned up. And even with all that, those teams were submitting, right at the deadline, including us, I might add. They were want to make sure everything was perfect.
Yeah.
What was being covered during the day in the sessions?
I was actually going to talk about that a little bit, because what's interesting is they intentionally include topics that you may include in your project. Overall, it's supposed to just help you grow in your leadership capacity in gaming specifically. So some strategic issues that are affecting gaming, AI, analytics, culture, kind of all of the things that you would expect, in a gaming leadership scenario. But what was really interesting is each of them would sort of give you little keys to your project, whether intentionally or not. I think most of it was kind of intentional. They knew what our project was in the evenings that we were working on. So sometimes they would talk to, for instance, we had Michelle Detondo, and she came to talk to us a lot about culture. And she's talking through these things that impact our daily lives in gaming, but then also, hey, some things you might want to consider in your organization in Thailand is XYZ. So each of the speakers touched on what we would need in our leadership development for ourselves, but also give us little tiny nuggets that we could take back to our teams in the evening.
And can you summarize the scope of the project or the deliverables that were necessary on day 5?
Yeah, the deadline, like I was kind of mentioning, so we needed a 30-page proposal that it covered 10 different items, including things like vision, architecture, design, compliance, responsible gaming, what the gaming operation itself was like, a little bit on the financials. They pulled some of that back a little bit. Just not everybody has a strong financial background that attends these things. So they don't want to get too hung up on that one. We were fortunate enough to have a couple of great individuals, including Sarah, on our team to really spearhead that portion of it. But so like 10 different areas. And like I mentioned, so that's a 30-page proposal, or up to 30 pages. We found that we had to pare a lot back because we were putting an awful lot of detail in. But so 30-page proposal, including if you needed extra supplemental information, you could have an extra 30 pages of that. And then you present it up to a half hour, including a full, presentation deck and all the butterflies that come with presenting in front of a group like that. Man, I'll tell you, like for something that wasn't actually in front of a real set of government employees, it was pretty nerve-wracking. And then you follow it up with, like I mentioned, some question and answer, just to make sure that you're tying all the bows correctly, right? And make sure you've got details associated with it.
Who was the intended audience if it was official?
So what was interesting is it was not a group of investors. It was not a group of stakeholders in that sense. What this was based on, the scenario, the case study we were provided, was the Prime Minister had essentially assembled this entertainment complex policy board. And so with the intent of sort of skewing us, I think, more in the direction of framing this for Thailand. And so it wasn't to just random investors. What kind of for us stuck out was that they had given us this backstory of this discontent around the concept in general in the country, throughout the country. And so there was this background of discontent that we basically had to overcome. And the theme throughout was win the hearts and minds of this group. And so knowing what in this, the background that they had provided for us, you kind of had to overcome that hurdle. So that was the intended audience, was this board. It ended up being, professionals throughout the gaming industry who were sort of posing as those folks, but they definitely gave us a hard time as if they were. So
Totally.
So the judges in this case, or the intended audience, if it was official, they were going to go into this presentation a little bit like skeptics.
yes,
And they were
very much.
skeptics saying, we don't think we need a casino in Thailand.
You just had to have a compelling argument, right? I mean, the idea is, a lot of Thai citizens are gaming, whether that's an underground type, setups, or they're going across the borders of neighboring countries to game, and there's a strong sort of opportunity loss, right? That's currently being faced. So, I mean, like, if there's a way to keep individuals, especially visitors, not necessarily, capitalizing on locals, but keep, Bangkok in particular has millions of visitors every year. I can't remember the exact number. I think it was like 36 million or something. It was a lot. I mean, it was a massive number of visitors coming to the area. And how do you capitalize on that even more, while not preying on locals, right? So, and ensure that we could show the traditions and the importance of all of that in a modern facility. There's no reason why Thailand couldn't be state of the art, and that was a big theme throughout our proposal in particular.
I think when you talk about this resistance, I guess it's going to be natural in a country that doesn't have legal casinos yet. But what did you identify as the resistance in Thailand?
We found a few things. I think with certain circumstances, specifically like in Cambodia, and how there's this perception that gambling addiction and gambling irresponsibly has contributed to some strife in Cambodia. So I think some of that fear and concern, which is, could be seen as valid, was one of the things that we had focused on. Sex trafficking, the Golden Triangle, and everything that goes into that was definitely a concern. In fact, we talked about it after knowing the team that ended up being successful in winning the bid. We might have focused more on that, but sex trafficking, responsible gaming, just what it would do to the community in general, infrastructure, traffic, crowds, those kinds of things were all concerns that we had identified. I'm sure there are many more, but those are some of the ones we had identified.
On this note then, were you already given the location of the casino in Thailand, or did you select it?
Yeah, we selected a location. We had a few different spots that were kind of shortlisted, if you will, but ultimately settled on Bangkok based off of at least for the first casino, mostly because of the number of visitors specifically to Bangkok in general. I know there's lots of visitation that happens in other areas, of course, but there's an expansion coming over the next 5 years to the airport just to the east of Bangkok proper. And so when we positioned our particular casino, which would be just to the south, closer to the coast, but basically due south from the airport, there was some space. It's kind of tough in that area, to find a space for an integrated resort like that. But we ultimately identified a spot just south where there was already some infrastructure without necessarily overly taxing an already dense metropolis, if you will, right? So with that airport expansion and the timing of this project, potentially, we thought that was a great spot, at least in the country itself.
And who would you identify as the operator?
So we created our own, if you will, right? So every group had part of that was to sort of name yourselves. Ours happened to be the Icon Group, which we're very proud of. We still have a tight team. It's fantastic. We still communicate on the regular. But we identified a number of partners, for instance, for various elements, Thai-based partners in most cases where we could, to ensure that we are selecting the wherever it's possible, internal individuals to make sure that we're keeping as much of whatever ultimately gets made at a resort like this internal to the country itself. So we identified, I think it was Minor International, which operates in like 62 countries or something, but it was really strong presence within Asia in particular. For a hotel partner, for instance, we had a list of those, including tourism bureaus and that sort of thing, to ensure that we were communicating with everybody that might be included, that might be necessary to be included.
Thailand might benefit in a lot of ways from being not last, but later than Cambodia, Macau, Singapore, Philippines. How can Thailand leverage what we know about the other countries who have casinos and benefit in a way to whatever plans Thailand has for moving forward?
So we kind of talked about that. Actually, we had on our team, we had Chris, who is from Marina Bay Sands, and we sort of leveraged his knowledge of some of the growing pains they've gone through, and certainly, Singapore is different than Bangkok would be, just as Macau is different. They're all different, but I think I feel like in the entire region, there's been a lot of a very strong learning curve. I would even say Marina Bay Sands is still sort of feeling that. And so I think when we were doing our proposal, at least, we considered some of those things and integrated changes. So we scaled down. Our hotel was a little bit smaller than Marina Bay Sands. We just took some of the lessons that they had learned there, and didn't quite, copy paste that property, but we certainly looked to them for lessons. But it's tricky because you don't know. You don't know how Thailand and how Bangkok in particular, if that's where we had settled, you don't know what that would be like, what visitation, what that would look like, and how people would react. We instituted a lot of the same assumptions for like gaming space. We did 5% of the total property space as gaming space. So a very small percentage was actually gaming, similar to, kind of that model. We did gaming taxes, a similar model as Singapore. So we use a lot of those assumptions, but I think it could be a very different market than Singapore or Macau, certainly Macau. So it was hard. It was hard for us. That was one of the things we struggled with, is how much do we take from that and learn from that, and how much do we assume might be different? And that was something that certainly in 5 days we didn't feel, 100% we would be comfortable with, but that was something we worked on for sure.
I'd like to add, so like you mentioned about being able to like move forward. So there was a theme throughout our entire proposal of around the concept of 9, which is really significant in Thailand based off of our research regarding not only as a number, but then based off of the 9th monarch of the dynasty, and moving forward in progress overall being a thing. So like I was mentioning before, with making sure that we pay homage to the deep culture that is permeated through everything, and ensure that we touched on, but how can we still make it cutting edge and learn from other places around, and ensure that we can be, that our proposal can basically show that there's no reason why Thailand can't be home to the absolute gold standard when it comes to whether it's health and wellness, whether it's a green facility, if you will, making sure that the traditions and are very present and shared with all visitors that come in, to ensure that there is both the traditional side, but then an absolute cutting edge technology to ensure that we are promoting everything responsibly, and ensure that we try to take the nose out, right? I mean, we want to make sure that everybody is safe and everybody's doing things responsibly and everything is accountable, and that it's, take as many benefits as possible and minimize risk as much as possible. So there's no reason why Thailand couldn't do that.
Mm.
Lots of inspiration for sure from other places, but definitely blazing their own trail in a Thai fashion for sure.
I guess there's some overlap or similarities to even sports betting in the U.S., where with Thailand, there's so much gambling that happens within the culture already.
True.
And there's no control over it. There is some problem gambling where people run into problems. And maybe by legalizing it, it doesn't take all the problems away. But maybe it can help.
Yeah, it really becomes an item that needs to be correctly identified and have responses that are appropriate. So, we would a lot of to your point. I mean, tons already happening. Just it's kind of behind the scenes, and it has some sort of but it's deep rooted, right? So whether it's fights or whether it's soccer or whether it's Formula One. I mean, any sort of different kinds of things, cockfighting. I mean, there's lots of different types of gaming that happens within the country, and responsible gaming is a big deal, especially when we're talking about locals. I mean, not that the outside, but you want to take care of the Thai people for a Thai proposal, and so through leveraging what is already known in other places, and then there's cutting edge technology. I mean, AI has the ability to do all sorts of interesting things, and played a very significant part in our proposal for technology that's right now you can see the benefits coming that aren't necessarily developed fully, that you can buy off the shelf, but it's close, to help identify predictively, how a player is doing, or, whether or not they are showing anomalies that maybe need to be addressed, but ensuring that the staff is trained properly and we have steps and processes that are set up and ready to go. Big pieces, the responsible gaming element and compliance in particular were large portions of the proposal, because all of it's for naught if we are ultimately doing something that is hindering the Thai folks, the locals in particular.
When you meet as a team and you break off and do your individual research or what have you, what moments during the week, during the 5 days, did somebody come back and say, hey, we have to consider this? And if that happened, what was that finding that they were excited about? We have to consider this.
I think one of the things we were really excited about is for one of the sessions, one of the speakers had brought up a map of travelers to Thailand. And it was this really eye-opening graphic of where all these travelers were coming from. And we had considered who the customer base would be and where they might be coming from. But to see it graphically like that and to see all these places they were coming from, that was an aha moment for us. It kind of sparked a lot of discussion on where these folks were coming from, and how we would need to, in essence, cater to them or to accommodate them. So that was one aha moment I remember in particular. I don't know if you have any others, Oliver, but there were many. They were very late nights, so some of them weren't all gems, I'll be honest, but some of them, they were really, really good.
Yeah, that traveling piece was really significant for sure. I mean, we were hearing and understand, well, our focus was on Thailand, but understanding the demographic of individuals who are coming in is a significant, obviously, portion of that one. So we start learning about, the number of individuals that are coming into the middle class, for instance, in adjacent countries or nearby. For instance, India, a massive population base with, millions of people that are coming into the middle class. Those are all, potential demos or potential areas that could be tapped in for people that are looking for a new experience, a new thing, to visit other places maybe they haven't done in the past. Of course, the other area casinos, or not casino, other area countries, or Australia, for instance, making sure that we're capitalizing on other spots. But, the understanding how the population bases in areas were developing and how they were progressing, financially, and what they were looking for. There was a thread throughout the entire, not necessarily this project, but throughout the entire program of being included in the fun economy, right? The fun economy is casinos and integrated resorts and great food and amazing spas and wonderful experiences overall. And so people are wanting that. Less stuff, more experiences, and we wanted to make sure we touched that.
And I feel like people already are coming to Thailand for those things, and that the casino could just be one more amenity or one more storyline
Absolutely.
One of their storylines now is legalize cannabis, and not everybody comes to Thailand for legal cannabis. They're here for other reasons, like the ocean or the culture, or like you said, the spas and the food and the hospitality. And it seems like Thailand, that's one area where they are just far out in front of the rest of the world when it comes to hospitality, warm-hearted hospitality.
No question. That was a strong theme in ours as well, represented from whether it was, wellness in spas and ensuring that was top notch. But, floating markets that were inside of our facility that showed the deep heritage of that existing within or street food, for instance, amazing food from amazing vendors, out there. So how do we represent that? How do we bring that inside as well to all be able to tell a story of not only, what was it like in Thailand, but specifically like, wow, I saw this out there. Here's the real thing over here. And they we wanted to make sure that was all included, but the hospitality overall was a massive, a talking point for our project. It's so deep rooted in the Thai culture and ensuring we're taking care of others. It was very important for us.
Yeah, that's a good talking point about how do you integrate the street food into a resort, meaning every night of the week, and whether you're in Phuket or Chiang Mai, Bangkok, or almost any Thai city, there's all the markets, and it's really reflective of a spirit of entrepreneurship, where if somebody's cooking at home, they just take that to the street. How do you bring that to a property?
We included in our proposal an 18 stall food market, and the surroundings are upscale, right, in keeping with the theme of the resort, but the food itself. The food is the heart, and we were adamant. We all talked about it, and even in our deck that we presented to the board, we included pictures of actual street food. We didn't want it to be. We're not trying to upscale and make everything fancy. We wanted authentic street food, so we included an 18 stall food market or walking market, and then the idea was that they would all be only local providers, either on a rotating basis or whatever that looks like. But that was one piece that I think we agreed on pretty early. That and the floating market, I think we agreed really early we needed to have in the property somewhere, and that it had to be authentic and it had to be local folks operating those.
What other interesting findings?
So one of the things, kind of on that same note, we made a realization one of the nights, and Bo kind of helped us make the realization. We were sitting there and we realized that those of us who are currently in tribal spaces, so those of us who work in tribal gaming, we were very much guiding our entire proposal toward culture, respecting the culture, and even our presentation from the perspective of, hey, this is what we can do for you. This is the gift that we can give you as a community, as a culture. Because that's what we're used to doing in our lives in gaming, in tribal gaming anyway. We are really big on sustaining the tribe and future generations into perpetuity. And so that was kind of our pitch with Thailand as well. Like, these are things. One of the judges asked, this is a lot of money. You're just making a lot of money, but it's to go back into the community, the jobs, the consumables will all be local, the taxes and local entry levies, all going back into the community in some way. And so one of the interesting pieces for us was realizing that those of us in tribal gaming had a little bit more perspective on that culture piece, I think, even though obviously Thai culture is much different than Native American culture. But just the idea that you're doing this for the greater good, I think, was something that touched us a lot throughout this.
Okay, so for the elephant in the room, everyone says this Thai casino will be incredibly successful. I mean, that's kind of the buzz, that it makes logical sense. It's the capital of hospitality and 40 million tourists a year. What do we do about political instability in Thailand? So that seems to be the number one objection, right? I don't know, yes or no, what the groups were talking about, but how to overcome that part of it.
It's a tough one for sure. The proposal that we were handed spoke a little bit to that you may go from a government that's a little more in favor of, if you will, bringing in a resort, and then a competing faction or competing group maybe a little less so. The idea for us was to ensure that we really concentrated on the benefits that would come to not only the country but to the people overall, and protecting the people overall. So it's hard to combat saying, hey, this is going to make this is a source of revenue that not only can help communicate or be a gift, if you will, not only to the people of Thailand, but to the people of the world and visitors that come in, to really say, hey, this is what Thailand has to offer. Here is a fantastic example, maybe a sample, if you will, until you get out into the surrounding areas. But here is a gift to communicate what Thailand's all about, and here are the benefits, to Sarah's point, regarding ensuring that we are securing or assisting in securing the future, right? So ensuring that the money is going to the country, to the people of Thailand, in a significant way, not in some sort of less than, right? So ensure that a significant portion of that is helping out locals, helping out infrastructure, helping out whatever it is that's needed. It's a fantastic source of revenue for that. So the unrest or potential political unrest, I think it comes back to just being true to the project overall, that regardless of who is in the seat, that you are able to communicate the benefits and how they considerably outweigh any potential cons that may be brought up.
Of the locations that are being considered and that we read about in the media, which ones did you say, no, absolutely not? And if so, why?
I don't know that we necessarily said absolutely not to any of them. Well, we did struggle a little bit. We struggled going a little to destination. One of the things that in the ask, so in the RFP, it did specify that we needed to include business travelers. And so for us, that's mainly the reason we settled in Bangkok, was because part of the ask was that business traveler, and we figured we'd get more of that in Bangkok than we would in Phuket or anywhere else. But I don't know that we actually said outright no to anything. I think we just gravitated toward Bangkok. Is that your?
That's my recollection as well. Absolutely, yeah. They're beautiful spaces, I mean, it came down to, if it's going to be the first one and you want to make sure you knock it out of the park and ensure that you can maximize the potential, to Sarah's point on whether it's, incoming visitors, whether it's for pleasure or for business in particular, that we went to a hub for that one. And again, like I mentioned, wanted to not tax the infrastructure too much, as far as like whether it's traffic or anything else that might be associated, so that the expansion to almost doubling in size of the airport was a strong factor for us, let alone the already really numerous number of visitors already coming to Bangkok. Seemed like a natural spot for at least the beginning. There was talk about just in the news, because there was a handful of potential licenses in other spots and that sort of thing, 2 in Bangkok, 1 in Phuket. There was I think 3 others that were sort of talked about in a news article in real life, not necessarily in our proposal. So just for a single license, if you will, our group settled on Bangkok for those reasons.
Let's talk about the program, the executive development program, for a moment. As the week came to a close, you went back to your jobs. How did the program benefit how you approach your job? Did it change anything or give you a perspective that you hadn't considered before?
For me, 100%. We have our group chat for our group is alive and well, and we've all been just talking about how much this has impacted us. But for me in particular, I think what everybody got out of it is very unique to themselves. So for me, I have been in gaming for 24 years, always in the same space, always at the same property. So for me, this was a huge eye opener for different perspectives, from commercial gaming to some of the manufacturers that were there, as well as some of the international folks. So for me, what I mostly got out of it was perspective. Just a change in viewpoint was refreshing, eye-opening, and definitely when I came back to work, I had a renewed perspective. I've already talked to my team here about some of the things I kind of want to employ here from some of the speakers. So for me, it was tremendous impact. I said it on LinkedIn. I'll say it again. This was transformative for me. 100%. I think, and what's tricky is you can't really put your finger on why. You're getting so much information, and it's a total of 9 days. You're getting so much information, and you're trying to apply it in real time. Like, how am I going to use this when I get back? But it all just kind of through osmosis. You're just absorbing it all, and by the end of it, you just feel so different. It's really hard to explain unless you've really gone through it. But I'll let Oliver say how it impacted him.
Very similarly, really what I would add is that, in a lot of cases when you're learning some, whether it's new facts or new potential skills or new tactics, sometimes you don't have a chance to really implement those. The group project allowed us to incorporate some of those things almost immediately, which so you start flexing those muscles right away. And to Sarah's point, what a fantastic opportunity to touch on areas that maybe are outside of your core discipline and get involved and be part of conversations that in my experience, felt very real. I mean, quite frankly, whether it's project management or diving into understanding the financial implications of this versus that, right sizing items, making sure that we're doing, in this case, proposal, public speaking. I mean, it touched on so many different items within the program itself. What an amazing setup in such a condensed, in a beautiful setting, I might add. It was, based in Lake Tahoe. What a fantastic spot to be cooped up for a week and change. Was really, to Sarah, I think transformative is a fantastic word for it. So I came back so excited and so re-energized, and really just chomping at the bit to dive into more. A really amazing process and amazing program.
There might be a gaming executive listening to this interview right now or watching it, and they're so eager to know more without going to the website yet for the development program. What would you tell them if they want to get involved? How should they?
Sure. So the University of Nevada, Reno is the spot to find an executive development program. University of Nevada, Reno. It has, basically what is going to happen during that week. I'll tell you, some of them are a little bit of, you don't want to as participants or previous participants, you don't want to say everything that happens from, behind the curtain. And that's something that's said amongst the group as well to ensure that some of the mystique stays. But all I can say is that it is absolutely worth it. Look into it. See if you're working with a gaming company already, see if your company will help sponsor the program. It isn't free, right? So, I mean, you want to make sure that that's taken care of, but it will change your life. And I do mean that with all sincerity.
Before we say farewell, I know you mentioned some of the features for this new integrated resort in Thailand, but for each of you, name one of the features that you got most excited about that's kind of unique.
So mine is not, my team will immediately know what mine is because I was so excited. I was like, I woke up in the middle of the night, I had this idea and I was like super jazzed. So I had this concept of a cultural center that was immersive. So it had sights and smells and sounds of Thailand, of different aspects of Thailand. It could be reprogrammable throughout the year. We could have, New Year's festivals and all these things as part of it. And it would be really an homage, but with some modern take on it. to sort of pay homage, but also entertain people. So I was like super excited. Like I was so like, I think I ran down to breakfast. I think I was telling them at breakfast, but that was one of the pieces that we incorporated. One of the things that I was most excited about.
For me, it was kind of the marriage between tradition and heritage, and that marriage between that and technology and moving forward. So, we had a number of features highlighted in the proposal, that things like massive lotus blossoms that are technology driven, sort of like think of like a massive Bellagio sized fountain show, if you will, but it features a lotus blossom that is full of technology and expands and has music and sounds and smells, like that we're all kind of incorporated as almost your entering view. Like it was a hook right out of the gate to let you know you had this fantastic symbol from that and then this technology that is absolutely cutting edge. It was like a snapshot in time of saying, okay, here, if you could sum it up, like, what is this place about? It is about, the absolute, the items that we know and love, and this moving forward, this progress, this thread that is going to permeate through the rest of your experience, where it's all going to be taken care of. Yeah. And there was a number of installations that we were talking about, but that one was really striking, and the rendering looks great, I might add. It really came out nice.
We'll flash that on the screen. Before we say farewell, any final thoughts? Start with you, Sarah.
I think that I am very interested to see where Thailand goes with this. I think this entire experience, obviously I've talked about my experience at EDP, but the experience specifically with this Thailand case study really got my interest piqued. We're all talking about going back to Thailand if this happens. Yeah. I'm very interested to see where this goes for Thailand. I think there's tremendous opportunity here for both, the country and each individual community. So I'm very, very interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, and Oliver.
For me, visiting after diving in more than I ever have in the past, as far as what Thailand has to offer, and my desire to go and visit all the places that I've seen now, these amazing videos and pictures and experiences that are just ready to dive into. Like I really want to visit very, very badly. And so it's just a matter of time, but that was probably my biggest one. Been in casinos for a long time, so it's hard for me to get super excited about seeing a casino, but seeing the countryside that it could potentially be in is definitely where I came out of that one. I would love to visit.
Yeah, no doubt. It's already the top. I just read in Travel and Leisure magazine for 2025, Thailand's the number one destination, and it's a very nice write-up. I don't know if you saw it.
I haven't, but I'll look for it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So listen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.